Hello everyone and welcome to Nice Big Wrench. Today we're going to look at my Aprilia Tuono Gen 2 fuel tank and the problems I've been having with it, and I thought I'd take this little video before I put it all back together again, because I'm never going to take it apart again. It's been too much of a pain in the backside. So what happened was I took my fuel tank off my bike because it had expanded, because it's plastic. Read up on the internet if you want to hear about why that happens and what causes it. Well, basically my idea was to take the tank off, put a sock of silica gel inside it and a fan, and keep it indoors and dry it out, and which I did so for a couple of weeks, and it didn't really help with the expansion problem. Oh well, experiment done. Seems you need to leave it for like 6 months for it to shrink back any size. So anyway, what I did was I took the fuel pump out of the fuel tank, and what happened was I took the tank off the bike, and then the fuel pump started leaking around the edge of it. So what happened was, where the plastic in between each of these bolts, obviously the fuel pump sits in there like that, in between each of these bolts the plastic of the fuel tank had bowed like this, enough to, because obviously the plastic's trying to expand and it can't because the bolt's holding it in place, so that it bows instead. And what happened was it had bowed to such an extent that it was leaking past the rubber seal that sits in this hole here, this groove here. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. So I took the pump out completely, tried drying it out, didn't work. Put the pump back on and found that I still had this problem where the edges had bowed. So what I did was I asked on the Aprilia Performance group on Facebook, other people's advice. People said, oh yeah, I left mine for 6 months to dry out. Some people had never had the problem. What I tried doing was I made a piece of metal, a bar with the correct drill holes this distance apart, put the piece of metal there, bolted it in so that it held the tank together, and then clamped it, put a clamp here to try and prise or stretch the plastic back into shape so that it was flat and uniform all the way around. I tried that for several weeks, leaving it for a couple of days in between each clamping, and it didn't work. So I still ended up with this bowing problem. So again, on the Aprilia Performance group, somebody suggested that they'd made a metal plate, glued the metal plate to the tank to make a flush flat surface, and then put their pump in, and then they've never had a problem with it for several years afterwards. So I thought, well, I've got some fabrication skills, I can do that. So what I did was I took this piece of 3mm thick aluminium, and cut it to shape, cut the hole to shape on the inside. It was quite an effort to clamp it back in, bolt it back in, because you bolt in, say, these two bolts here, and these two over here are about 1 millimeter out. So you have to get like a wood clamp and squeeze it back together again to make the bolts line up, just so you can put the bolt in. So yeah, I did that. So then I used this sealant, which I got off of Amazon, and it's a sealant but also an adhesive that's petrol and oil proof. Specifically, normal adhesive won't cut the mustard. So basically, I've put a bead of it. Obviously, the tricky thing is putting a bead of it around the outside, but without it putting it near the bolt holes so the bolts don't get glue in them. So I put a bead of that around it, put a bead of it on the underside of the plate as the instructions on the glue, and I've left this for, and then I clamped it, because obviously I still had the bowing problem, but I've clamped it, and since then I've not had any bowing. I've taken the clamps off, left it for a couple of days. I put another bead of sealant around the inside just to seal up any gaps there might be between the two surfaces, and I've done that and left it a couple of days, and it seems to be alright. There's no stretching, there's no nothing going wrong with it. So now today the task is to take my fuel pump and put it back in, and hopefully the tricky bit I've got with this is if I take the bolts out, then the tank might expand and breathe out, and then the bolt holes don't line up. I'll lose the seal because the glue will crack where the seal goes. But there's no other way of doing this. I just have to take all the bolts out very quickly, put the pump in, and hope it all works out. If it doesn't, I might cry. So anyway, let's put my seal back in. One thing I would advise people is, if you are not getting any oil leaks on your fuel tank, any petrol leaks on your fuel tank, don't take it out. It's not worth the hassle. This has taken me several weeks of having my bike out of action. Right, so that goes in that way around. Okay. Just checking that's tight. Yeah, it's all good. Right. These are all 7mm bolts, so I'm just going to do it quickly with a drill. As you can see, there's a little bit of aluminium swarf there, where the bolts are scraping against the side of the plate. Yeah, that's stretching already. As long as I get a couple of bolts. Yeah, that's blimey, that's really, really bad. I'm not entirely sure if this is going to even work now, because the bolts are stretching already. Exactly what I feared was going to happen. I did try putting some liquid gasket sealant around the rubber ring to try and kind of boost it. Try and boost the amount of distance that it would, or tolerance that it would cover, and that didn't really work. So I've got, I think that's succeeded. Good. I managed to do that quickly enough that it's not flex too far out of shape, so hopefully the seal should stay perfectly in line. What I'm going to do is get my torque wrench, and these are set to 7 Newton meters of torque. Obviously, I don't want to torque up one at a time. I want to kind of go in a star pattern so that the unit bolts down straight. Not, if you tighten one side and then work your way around, it will basically tighten flat there and then it won't sit flush. So I'm going to go around in like a star pattern like this and just tighten it all up slowly. Little quarter turn at a time. Quite loose. Let's try and even that out. You don't need me to teach you how to use a torque wrench. There's plenty of people out there who do so. Plenty of YouTubers and YouTube guides on it. obviously torquing all this up, hopefully squeeze the seal, and it will be nice and sealed. So, yeah. Well, I won't bore you with torquing all this up to spec, but yeah, basically that's the problem I've been having. That's what I did to fix it, and hopefully I'll refill the fuel tank, and all will be well. We shall see. All right, that'll be all for today. I'll catch you guys next time.